Bryn, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to get to know you a little bit better. First, I'd like to start off with just an introduction. Can you tell me what you do here at the museum?
Yeah, I'm curator of Mycology, which is the study of fungi.
Do you have any particular specialties within mycology?
Yeah, I focus on the mushroom-forming fungi. So mushrooms are the reproductive structures of fungi, of some fungi, and that's the group that I work on.
So mushrooms is included in mycology. What else is included in that area of study?
Molds, yeasts, lichens, lots of different things.
And as I understand, mushrooms and fungi, they're not plants, they're not animals, they're something else entirely, right?
Yeah, they're their own kingdom. That's right, yeah. And they share a common ancestor with animals, actually. So they're very distantly related to plants like we are.
Genetically, do we share some common traits with mushrooms?
We do, in fact, yeah.
The mushrooms that you study, do you primarily do specimens from Utah or any other places?
We collect them all over the world. In fact, I'm going to Vietnam in about 3 weeks to collect mushrooms.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Have you been able to do any field work in Vietnam previously?
Yeah, it was last time in 2008, so
wow.
we're really excited to go back.
Anywhere else abroad that's really interested you?
We've had a long-term project in Cameroon, in West Central Africa, that we're still sorting through all the specimens we collected. We made like 700 or 800 collections from Cameroon, and I've collected in Madagascar, Brazil, Chile, Borneo.
Anywhere you haven't been that you'd like to go?
Yeah, Papua New Guinea. I really want to go there.
Really? What's in New Guinea?
So it's sort of like the missing link between Australia and Asia. We think that there was a lot of migration from Australia to Asia, but without being able to sample in Papua New Guinea, which is intermediate, we can't really know for sure.
Oh, interesting. I'm excited to hear if you ever make that trip down there.
Yeah, it's a dangerous place, so it's hard to...
High risk, high reward, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Let's talk about your field work for a second. Is every trip exactly as successful as you'd want to be, or have there maybe been some times that you've had some field work fails?
We often have failed field work. With mushrooms, you can't really ever predict where they're going to be, and so every time you're hoping that you're just going to happen to encounter them, and it's a real risk. So yeah, we've been skunked many times.
I learned that expression yesterday.
Oh, really?
Skunked. Yeah, I don't use that in my normal everyday life.
Parlance.
It's not. I think that's science specific, but I really like it. That's fun.
Okay.
What about outside of the museum? Do you implement your passion for mycology in other areas of your life?
Yeah, I like to cook a lot, and edible mushrooms figure prominently in cuisines, so yeah.
What about other areas of mycology? Yeast?
Oh yeah, I'm a home brewer also.
Yes.
Yes, and I like to play with molds. So there's a mold that's used. It's a domesticated mold, so it doesn't occur in the wild. People domesticated it for use, and it's used widely in a lot of processing of Asian foods. So if you think of soy sauce, sake, this mold is used to break down the soybeans or whatever they're using, and you get these amazing products out of it. It's a rich umami flavor, and so I play. It's called koji. That's the Japanese name for it. So, and you could buy it and grow it at home, which I do. And I once koji'd my Thanksgiving turkey. And it was phenomenal.
Oh, wonderful! Have you always had this passion for mycology and mushrooms, or is this something that you just stumbled into?
I developed a passion for it at an early age. I was in high school and saw some mushrooms in the backyard. My mom gave me a field guide and told me to tell her what they were, and I spent about 3 or 4 hours that afternoon looking at mushrooms in incredible detail for the first time, and this whole world just was unveiled to me, and I got bit and
Never went back.
Oh,
yeah. I love that. If someone were to pursue a career in mycology, where do you suggest that they start?
Well, I would reach out to universities and find people that are working actively in mycology, and we're a rare breed, so not every university has a mycologist, unfortunately, but even if they're not in the immediate area, there's going to be some people around, and I would just email people or call them up, because we're a friendly group.
So I'd like to play a game with you. We are going to do 3 clues. I'm going to give you 3 clues about a mushroom, and you'll have to decide which mushroom I am describing within those 3 clues. Are you ready?
Okay.
All right. Clue number 1. Highly sought after for wild food with rich, nutty, and earthy flavors.
Okay.
Number 2, commonly found under conifer trees. Number 3, penny bun.
Uh-huh.
And I have a bonus clue if that didn't give it away.
Well, I was going to guess after the first clue, actually.
Oh, snap. Okay, go for it.
So this is porcini.
It is! Well done.
Or penny bun.
Or penny bun. That's one of the clues.
An antiquated British term for it.
Oh, I
Because
like
the
that.
cap looks like a particular type of bread you could buy called the penny bun.
That was my bonus clue. Is cap looks like a greasy bun. Okay.
Not always
That was
greasy.
so
but-
mean. Well, I'm impressed. Do we have porcinis here in Utah?
We do. In fact, it's my research lab's specialty.
Oh, why did I start with that one then? Come on. All right. For your second mushroom.
Okay.
Clue number 1. There are no gills. Instead, spores are produced internally in a gastrothecium.
Okay.
Is that how you say it?
Gastrothecium.
Gastrothecium.
Okay.
Okay. Number 2, can reach a foot or more in diameter.
Okay.
You definitely already know what
I
this
do.
is. Oh my goodness. Number 3. This mushroom has a ball-shaped fruit body.
Mhm.
What is this mushroom?
Well, people call it the giant puffball or
Yes.
Calvadia gigantea.
Do we have those in Utah?
We do. Yes.
Do they reach a foot or more in diameter?
They do.
Is that? I figure that would be pretty easy to see in the field.
Yeah.
Walk around, you can just kind of see them.
Yeah.
They are edible, right?
Yeah, they are when they're young. If they're pure white on the inside, like no hint of yellow, then they're edible. Although personally, I don't like the flavor.
What happens when they turn yellow?
Well, what's happening is the internal tissue is turning into very dry spores, and that's very indigestible.
Wonderful. Yeah. I don't think I'll try it. Oh yes. Thank you. I don't think I'll be trying the giant puffball after it's gone a little bit dusty, but
No.
that's exciting. All right, and then your final mushroom that we will be guessing. Number 1. This is one of the most wild edible mushrooms. Number 2, meaty and funnel shaped.
Okay.
Number 3, and I don't understand how this works, so emits a fruity aroma reminiscent of apricots.
Uh-huh.
What is this mushroom?
It's a chanterelle.
It is! How does a mushroom smell like an apricot?
It does. It makes the same kinds of volatile chemicals that you find in apricots and other stone fruits.
And this is native to Utah as well.
It is, yeah.
Where would I find a chanterelle?
In the same habitats you find porcini, so they like coniferous forests in the mountains.
That's awesome. You are too good at this, and I should have done some super
These are
obscure
easy
ones. I'll have to bring you back for a bonus round of
Okay.
Guess This Mushroom.
All right.
We'll be getting real obscure,
Okay,
so
yeah.
watch out.
All right.
So what about the mushrooms that we find in Utah that aren't edible? Do we have poisonous mushrooms?
There are some poisonous mushrooms here, but they're rarely encountered, so it's not something you need to be really all that concerned about. Although, if you are somebody that wants to go and eat wild mushrooms, you really need to know what they are before you eat them. And if you don't, ask an expert.
That's a pretty safe, assumption to make about everything. Ask an
Yeah.
expert,
Yeah.
Let's not be amateurs here. What's the point of poisonous mushrooms? If they're so harmful, why do we keep them around?
Well, they do really important things for us. So the poison is their defense strategy. They can't walk away from an enemy, right, or something that's eating them. So instead, they have this chemical defense, just like plants do. So that's how they survive. But they do really important things for us by decomposing dead organic material. So fungi are the primary decomposers of the world. Without them, we wouldn't exist because all the dead plants and animals would just pile up and they'd never go away. So they're really important.
Shout out to mushrooms. There's an area in the Pacific Northwest that's like the largest organism on Earth. Can you talk a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, so it's in the Blue Mountains in eastern Oregon, and it's a single individual, we think, of a mushroom-forming fungus. Now, you don't see it very often because it's in the soil, and it's actually a parasite or pathogen of trees. And so you can find it, so it was first recognized because they could see this large area where the trees had all died. And they went in and found, the people that discovered this went in and sampled the fungus on those trees and then was able to figure out that, they were able to figure out that it's actually one individual. And it covers an area of about 3 square miles. Yeah, the largest organism to have ever lived on planet Earth, much larger than a blue whale. You can fit 30 pandas inside of it, so panda's not the biggest thing.
Holy cow, a panda's pretty big.
Pretty big,
but
this is much
30,
bigger.
I'm impressed. How long have mushrooms been around on the Earth?
The mushroom-forming group of fungi first evolved around 500 million years ago, so they've been around for quite a while.
Oh, yeah.
The fungi have been around since, very early on. They evolved about a billion and a half years ago. Yeah, so our common ancestor with a fungus was around 1.5 billion years ago, and we've diverged. We've gone on different paths ever since. And what I find this really fascinating. So the animal lineage develops an internal and elementary canal, so we have to consume food that goes into our bodies, and a fungus is the opposite of that. So they consume things on the outside of their body. They excrete their digestive enzymes outside of their cells. They work in the environment to break things down, and then the cells reabsorb the products, byproducts of that. So it's like you get these two really completely different life forms, and one fundamental reason for that is just the way we get our food.
So mushrooms have been around much earlier than humans have, and I'm going to assume that when we're gone, mushrooms are still going to be here for a while.
Yeah, they're a really resilient group. Yeah, fungi. There's no evidence that fungi were impacted significantly by the asteroid that caused the mass extinction 65 million years ago. Now that's just, that may be because there's like virtually no fossil record, so we just don't know. But there's no evidence that, they probably did fairly well because they didn't need light for the most part.
The theme for Behind the Scenes this year is resilience. And you mentioned that resilience with mushrooms being able to withstand huge amounts of climate change and asteroid impacts. What do we see as the resilience in fungus today?
So we're going to have on display mushrooms and other fungi that grow in the desert as an example of their resilience. So you think of mushrooms and most people will think about dark, damp places, right? Well, it turns out they occur there, but they can also live in very arid conditions, and they take on some very unusual forms when they do this. And so we have some that have been collected in this desert in Utah, in southern Utah, and some other places, and we'll have a variety of those forms on display.
Before we wrap up, what are you working on now? Anything that we might be able to have a little sneak peek of?
So we do a lot of DNA sequencing in my lab. That's sort of fundamental to the work that we do. So we try to reconstruct relationships in the evolutionary history. And to do that, because mushrooms don't talk, we have to infer it. And so we do that by looking at their genomes. And then by comparing the genomes, we can reconstruct their histories. So we'll have on display as well a little portable DNA sequencer that we use in the lab. And you can handle this device that will sequence the whole genome if you want.
Freaky stuff. I love it.
And we have 2 main projects right now that we're focusing on. One is the porcini mushroom family. So we're trying to reconstruct the evolutionary history of that family, which is found worldwide. It underwent an evolutionary radiation, just like birds. So you can think of, an explosion of a particular group. This is one example of that in fungi. So we're trying to understand what drove that explosive diversification. And then the other major project we're looking at is the fungus growing ant mutualism. So think of leaf cutter ants. Have you ever seen a nature documentary of the ants that carry bits of leaf? Well, what they're doing is they're carrying that to a subterranean nest. That leaf material is then inoculated with a fungus. The fungus decomposes the leaf material and the ants eat the fungus. That's their sole source of food. So this is a really cool, iconic mutualism, a symbiosis that both partners benefit from that has existed for 50 million years. It's the very first agriculture to have evolved. So, and they've been doing it for 50 million years, so perhaps we have something to learn from these lowly ants and fungus.
Oh, definitely. That sounds so fascinating. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I've loved getting to know you a little bit better, and I am seriously impressed with your mushroom knowledge, and I'll be back. I will be back with harder questions
Okay.
next time, because that was way too easy. Did you
Bring it
know
on. Yeah.
which mushroom was like after the first?
Yeah.
On like every one of them?
Well, I didn't. The puffball, I knew it was a type of puffball,
puffball?
but I didn't know which one you were going to.
Well, I that is seriously impressive, and I will be back with even harder questions next time. But thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.